Jimmy and Tucker expose YouTube and media fascism. And Keith Olberman is calling for a new McCarthyism. Say it ain't so, Keith. Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
No! And you ain't black.
I don't know what I said.
The first time ever any...
What are you people? We're Americans.
We are Americans indeed. My name is Vincent, and I am the world's newest cheerleader for Putin. Don't worry about it, dear listener. Don't worry about it. Shout out to all the Middle Americans. If you want to check us out, it is on Facebook, where I am streaming right now, actually. I'm streaming on multiple platforms right now. Shout out to Carlos Melendez, first responder. Facebook.com/America Middle, and that's the forum. You can get on. It's a free speech environment. And sometimes I actually do exclusive streams there. If I'm on the way to Walmart or picking up a bunch of guitar picks or whatever it is, sometimes I'll do a quick stream, and I'll do it there, and I won't do it elsewhere. So anyway, Facebook.com/America Middle. Now, some of you have been commenting almost every time I shoot a video. You guys like, I didn't even get the notification. We did a big 4-hour documentary together on Friday, dear listener. And I think you didn't get the notification for reasons we will probably explicate in this video. If you want notifications, all you have to do is unsubscribe, resubscribe, and then hit the bell. It's about 2 or 3 clicks, and that'll take care of it. Inshallah. We'll see. You can sit there because you're not. Okay, I have a visitor here for homeschool who's continuing to do their assignment. Shout out to Anthony King. So there you go. That's the best I could tell you. I'll put this up here for you guys so that you can remember. But other than that, I don't really have any other ideas for you. If you're not getting notifications, unsubscribe, resubscribe. There you go. And hit the bell. Okay. Shout out to Brother Al. Shout out to Keith. Oh yeah, shout out to Keith Olberman. I mean, I guess he's crazy. He seems to be repeating that seems to be the zeitgeist right now. Anybody that doesn't go along with the party line is a cheerleader for Putin. Ain't that right, Brother Al? All right, guys. Jimmy Dore did a video a couple days ago, and I wanted to actually talk about it because I think I've got this friend. He and I talk every other day. Actually, he kind of hit me up while I was in the shower, preparing for this video. Probably too much information for you beautiful people. But he's one of my best friends in the internet world, and he's kind of a doomsday type, type one of those doomsday type of people. And I'm always trying to talk brother off the ledge. He's always got some, the most, I won't say strangest, but he's got the most pessimistic interpretation of events that I've ever seen in quite some time. But what I'm about to show you, dear listener, is a feather in this man's hat, because what we're about to talk about is not good. This is not good. Now, I am an optimist. I am an optimist for the world, as far as what God is going to do in the world. As far as America, I'm not sure that we're going to make it. I'm not sure that America is going to make it. Very optimistic about the world, but I'm not sure America's going to make it. And hell, based on our behavior for the last 20 years, maybe there's a correlation between the two. Maybe there's a correlation between the good of the world and our country not making it. I'm not sure. There he is right there. Doom. Doom. Here's my brother Al. My brother Al, who's my brother. So I have no issues with my brother Al. He says maybe cheerleader for Putin was a little too much. All I want to convey is more focus on the suffering that's going on right now, and that Putin is no angel. Don't hold grudges. My brother, nobody said that Putin was an angel. You're saying he's an angel because a demon is simply a fallen angel. I'm saying he's a human being with a bunch of uncontested power, and anytime human beings interface with uncontested power, horrible things are going to result. Okay, now let's watch. Here we go. Jimmy Dore. Here's Jimmy Dore exposing some YouTube fascism. Okay, and actually, I need the comment section to be a little bit more active than normal here because I'm still trying to figure out how to think about these big tech companies and the concept of censorship and things of that nature. I had a position that I was pretty cemented on for a very, very long time. But that position is starting to erode. Okay. So actually give me a Gatorade, sweetie. That I had a position and the position started to erode. So here, shout out to Mike. Gang, Mike. Here's my current position. Here's oh, you know that I am, DJ. You know that I am. Here's my current position about big tech social media companies. As big as they are, this is what it used to be. This is what it currently is, but it's starting to erode. My current position is that these big tech companies, social media giants, whatever you want to call them, are private companies that we are guests on their platform. So I'm a YouTuber. It's what I do, but YouTube is a private company, and if they don't want to promote me, which YouTube has stopped promoting me for quite some time across all of my channels, if they don't want to promote me, that's fine. That's their prerogative. If they don't want to monetize me, that's fine. That's their prerogative. If they want to deplatform me and take down all my videos, that's fine. That's their prerogative because they're a private company. When people say, "Oh, YouTube is or Facebook or all these people, they're killing free speech," my response is always, "Nope. Free speech is what happens when the government comes in and quells your speech. It's not when a private company comes in and quells your speech." That, dear listener, has been my... What do you want? I'm in the middle of an amazing soliloquy. What are you doing?
I wasn't interrupting.
What do you want?
Scissors.
Take the scissors. That, dear listener, has been my perspective. I'm an American, damn it. This is a capitalist context, etc. That's been my position. And then I found out some stuff about COVID and reporting. I watched what Facebook did to our dear channel, Middle America, where they clearly took a political position in their quote-unquote fact checkers. And then this whole Ukraine situation, which has gotten me reconsidering my position. So that's my current position. Without further ado, here is the big homie, Jimmy Dore. Let's do it.
More censorship is happening, but you will not be censored at our live stand-up comedy shows in Dallas and Houston, Orlando, Tampa, coming up real soon. Go to jimmydorecomedy.com for a link for tickets. Here's what YouTube said. Today, we began blocking RT and Sputnik's YouTube channels across Europe. Since Russia began its invasion in Ukraine, we've been focused on removing violative violative content and connecting people to trusted news and information. Trusted. Is there anywhere that you know that's a trusted news and information outlet? Because I don't. An overview of these steps. Here's an overview of the steps that they've taken. Wow.
All right, so they began blocking RT and Sputnik's YouTube channels. That would be Russia, Russian state-funded media. You can listen in if you want. That would be Sputnik and RT are Russian state-funded media. So it's news. You could slide up a little bit. It's news funded by the government. Okay, so it's basically a propaganda machine. Because we don't have those here. No, dear listener, we don't have those here. Only the Russians have state-sponsored media. We continue.
Wait, Russia really uses the name Sputnik a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
It's a channel. It's a vaccine. It's like their version of Aloha, I guess, huh? We paused monetization and significantly limited recommendations for Russia state-funded media channels. Both actions are global and indefinite. Boy,
So we paused monetization and significantly limited recommendations. Again, that's when I say, well, I mean, they don't owe me any money. Okay? And I say to myself, I say, look, Vinny, if you felt that there was some, radical, devious, subliminal abortion lobby happening, would you want your billion-dollar company funding it? I'd say, well, no, I wouldn't want my billion-dollar company funding it. Okay. So they can demonetize. Anybody who's a YouTuber, if you see the little green dollar sign, that means you're going to get all your money without restrictions. If you see the yellow dollar signs, that means they're going to limit the ads. And then if you see it completely slashed out, you ain't getting no money whatsoever. That doesn't mean YouTube can't run channels on your, can't run ads on your video. It just means you're not going to see a red cent. Again, I say to myself, well, I understand that. I understand that a little bit. They limited recommendations for Russian state-funded media channels. So that means, YouTube's got a super secret algorithm and they determine who's going to get recommended. Okay? So like Young Turks, all those guys, they're going to get recommended. But again, YouTube doesn't owe you a recommendation, and I don't see how that's quelling free speech. Okay? I don't. We continue.
so happy that these rogue countries can be held accountable by unaccountable corporations the size of rogue countries.
Well, the financial size of rogue countries, because I think if you put Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube together, or Google, Google, Twitter, and Facebook together, because Google owns YouTube, as I very well know. Because look, I could show you guys a little thingy that they send you. Anyway, all right. It's true. It's like the Watchmen. Like the Watchmen are there to watch over people, but then the question is, well, who watches over the Watchmen? Or who fact checks the fact checkers? Who does that? Both actions are global and indefinite. That just sounds really authoritarian, bro. Doesn't it? Like, they're global and indefinite. You know when your mom and dad used to say, that is final? We never say that. I don't say that. That's final. As a matter of fact, I tell you to negotiate. Isn't that true?
That's true.
I tell you to negotiate. I'm like, you're going to give up that quick? Isn't that true?
Yeah, 3 times.
3 times. I teach the girls to negotiate. They're going to learn that skill. I never say that's final. We're not running a fascist gulag in this house. But YouTube's actions are global and indefinite. We continue. Subhanallah. Apple is worth more than the GDP of Russia. La ilaha illallah. Here we go. This poor little country. We got one American company that's worth the entire GDP of an entire nation. SubhanAllah. We keep going.
Our trust and safety team has worked to quickly remove.
Has anybody ever read 1984? that book, 1984? Doesn't this sound like an Orwellian, our trust and safety team? Here's a group that's here to censor you and take away your money. That's trust and safety. But notice how the trust is only going one way. The trust is we're supposed to trust that they're making the right decision, but they're not going to trust us to make the right decision about the information that we're inviting into our own consciousness. Because when I click on a video voluntarily, okay, that is me deciding to imbibe that into my consciousness. And then based on that, I make a decision on what I believe is valid or invalid, true or false, etc., etc. But they don't trust me to be able to exegete that information properly. I'm just supposed to trust them and safety. Who are you keeping safe? Now, I'm not a fan of this, man. I'm not a fan of this type of language, trust and safety. No. I'm not a fan of that kind of language. They should have used different language.
Violative content. There's that word again. We've removed hundreds of channels and thousands of videos for violating our community guidelines, including our policies around deceptive practices and misinformation.
That's my problem. You're bragging about removing channels. Okay, so if you demonetize, I'm like, okay, fine. Find a different way. Like, for example, our initial YouTube channel always gets demonetized because we made a certain decision in our business model. And so we compensate for that. We supplement that capital in another way, which we're not going to talk about because I'm not promoting that channel or anything having to do with that channel. But I understood that, right? YouTube not promoting a channel, I still understand. You don't need to be page 1 by YouTube. They don't. That's not quelling your speech. If people want to find you, they're going to find you. Here's my problem, bro. They've removed hundreds of channels and thousands of videos for violating community guidelines, including our policies around deceptive practices and misinformation. What the fuck does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Deceptive practices and misinformation. Does that mean when CNN said that Joe Rogan was taking horse dewormer or whatever, they kept calling ivermectin, blah, 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 blah. Does that mean that they're going to give them a community guideline strike and take down their channel, suspend them for a week like they just did with Rising? I didn't see that happening to CNN, but they were wrong. When CNN ran the Snake Island thing, which was clear Ukrainian propaganda, they didn't get a copyright strike or a community guideline violation. So what do they mean by this statement? I'm not sure. And then like what are the objective criteria that determines what is a deceptive practice? Here's Jam. Here's my buddy Jam. They are concerned that Russia will fabricate stories about these labs, of which they have already done. Fokker Carlson leaves out some key points to sell his false narrative that the U.S. is making. Here we go. So that's where I'm starting to have a serious problem, man. That's where I'm having a serious problem. We continue.
Our trust and safety team. Kurt, did you hear that?
Yeah.
It's so good to know we can trust the team to keep us safe. When people search for topics on Russia and Ukraine, our systems prominently surface authoritative news content. Like the authoritative news that said Iraq had WMDs. That.
I was just about to say that. What do you mean? Authoritative news content. Authoritative news. CNN? MSNBC? Fox News? This is the thing this is the See, this is where I have a problem, guys. Because we know that Fox News is obviously and clearly in the pocket of the Republican Party. What was the guy? I forgot what the guy's name was. I forgot the guy's name was, but he was one of the anchors on Fox News, and then he just shifted over and became Bush's Jen Psaki, and then Trump's Jen Psaki got a job at Fox News. I mean, they just mix and match, and we know that CNN, MSNBC are the home of neoliberals are us. We know that. Rachel Maddow and all them. So I have 2 or 3 major news outlets that are completely owned by one political corporation or another. So what is the definition of what an authoritative news or a top shelf news organization is? Did the Snake Island story, which got prime time with CNN, with all the crying and all that jazz, that didn't get reversed in the same way? I had to dig for that shit. Most of you probably never even saw it on CNN after that. I had to dig. I dug into CNN to make sure that at least it was on the website before I said that CNN didn't go and correct it. Right? But this right here, this is where I'm really beginning to change my mind on this shit. Because they're saying that we're going to deplatform people who don't have legitimate, and still, like, at this point, it's like violating, it's this weird, like, what does it mean? Give me something objective. Give me an A plus B equals X, and that's what constitutes a community guideline violation. This is what constitutes misinformation and disinformation. All I know right now, the way that misinformation and disinformation is being defined is if you disagree with the authoritative news content from top news and breaking news shelves. That, to me, is the only way to define it. Just weird, bro. Now, here's Jim. Jim, after I get done with this segment, you can call me up and you can tell me what Tucker said that was untrue about these biolabs. Did Victoria Nuland not say that she was concerned that the Russians would be able to get hold of these materials? If there's nothing pathogenic there, then why would we be concerned? We're not talking about making anthrax and all the rest of it at those labs? That can't be weaponized? But I'm not going to get distracted there, listener. We're going to continue.
And if the authoritative news that said Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian propaganda, that authoritative news and misinformation.
Correct.
Our trust and safety team. Kurt, did you hear that?
Yeah.
It's so good to know we can trust the team to keep us safe. When people search for topics on Russia and Ukraine, our systems prominently surface authoritative news.
Okay. Tucker omitted the paragraphs after that. Excellent. Jam, after this, I'm going to send you a link. You can call up. You don't even need to be on video. Type 22 if you want Jam to call up. Call up, and I'm going to give you an opportunity in front of all of Middle America, all 5 of us in our little channel here. I'm going to give you the opportunity to fill in the blanks of what Tucker left out. You'll be doing us all a community service, inshallah. Okay, here we go.
News content, like the authoritative news that said Iraq had WMDs, that kind of, and if the authoritative news that said Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian propaganda, that authoritative news that said that Donald Trump was working with the Russians for 5 straight years, but nobody could prove it. So they're going to be pushing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is the authority. Okay, so honestly, honest to God, I'd like to ask you two, but they're too big. You can never get anybody on. Well, I mean, you can't. They will assign you somebody once you hit a certain. But this channel hasn't hit it, so I haven't been assigned anybody. But what would you have done? Because the news, the mainstream media, Democrat, Republican, MSNBC, Fox News, CNN, local, national news, they were all univocal when it came to WMDs in Iraq. All of them. So what would you have done then? The whole thing was a fucking lie. You know what's interesting? There were these other crazy conspiracy people that at the time were saying, I don't know, man. I feel like this is faulty information. I feel like this doesn't make sense. The dots aren't necessarily connecting. Hey, maybe we should listen to the UN. Yeah, but at the time we didn't have social media. So if we would have had social media at that time, maybe it's possible that we wouldn't have went into the war with Iraq. Because part of this that's getting me about why I'm starting to change my mind is because the point of the media initially, write this down for your school. The point of the media is to hold the government and powerful actors accountable. They're supposed to be the snitch, in the hood. You and your boys doing some dirt or whatnot, or a tattletale. And then, the school newspaper gets published and they're like, yo, at 2:30 at fourth period, by the bridge, so-and-so and so-and-so had a box cutter and yada, 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 yada. It was the weekly Mustang or whatever. The point of the media was to hold the powerful accountable. That was the point. So that the powerful would start getting nervous about doing a bunch of dirt because then, the Daily Star would tell on them and embarrass them and inform the people. And in a democracy, you get to vote. So the media tells on you when you do a bunch of evil shit or when you betray your constituency, and then those people punish your ass by voting you out. And if the media can find you breaking a law, you can get impeached or removed from office, defraud, whatever. That was the original point of the media. That's how, democracy dies in darkness. That's the point of the media. But there are many theories or many theorists that say that having an actual democracy in a capitalist context is impossible. And one of the things they point to is that it is impossible to keep media pure in a capitalist context because then you can buy media. Write that down. Ask the question, is democracy possible in a capitalist context? I'm not sure it is. Because now you can buy media. So what if I'm a Republican billionaire or Republican super PAC that can buy off a bunch of channels? Now the media won't tell on me when I do a bunch of evil shit. Now they'll go after my opponent and they'll fabricate stories about my opponent. Perfect. For 4 years, can democracy function in a capitalist environment? I'll tell you later, but put a little asterisk by that. My daughter's homeschooled. I'm educating my daughter. Educate your daughter, gentlemen. That school teacher. Anyway. Because now I can buy you. Which, dear listener, some of you are too arrogant to admit it. That's what happened with mainstream neoliberal media for the last 4 or 5 years with this Russiagate nonsense. Instead of running a story of the victims of our current healthcare system every week, they should have been putting a name and a face in our face every single week in mainstream media over the last 4 or 5 years of the victims of our healthcare system. Instead of that, we got nothing but Russia, 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 Trump, 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 P-tape nonsense, ridiculous stupidity. And YouTube did not go after CNN, MSNBC, Rachel Maddow. Rachel, I remember watching the supposed P-tape, Rachel Maddow. Not watching the P-tape, watching Rachel Maddow talk about the P-tape and all the rest of it. All these crazy-ass speculation, the lies that Rachel Maddow told about the whole Trump situation. They never hit MSNBC with a guideline strike. I mean, yeah, I know it's okay though because you don't like Trump because he's a Nazi. I remember. We continue.
You towards the corporate news that lies. Why? Because they control everything and they fund everything. That's why. God damn. Good news though, when you search for topics on the war, only authoritative sources will come up. Oh, wait a minute. I misread.
Unbelievable.
Authoritative. I thought it said authoritarian sources, but it's really authoritative. That's what it is. Authoritarian. Boy, it's just so darn close to authoritarian. You could see how somebody could screw those up. You know, it's like how biodefense research and bioweapons research, they're really close to each other, right?
It's nuanced, yes.
It's very nuanced. We also display...
Al, I'm not denying that every, quote, respectable country has level 3 labs. Neither did Tucker. This is the thing that gets me with folks. One doesn't mean the other. What we're talking about is anthrax and all the rest of these dangerous pathogens are being played with and toyed with in a Ukraine that borders on a Russia when there's an obvious Cold War going on, at the time a warm war going on, at least for the last 3 years. And a month ago or a month and a half ago, we got all our folks to get the hell out of Dodge from Ukraine, but we left all that shit there. And Victoria Nuland said she was concerned that the Russians might stumble upon the materials. That's all Tucker said. That's all he said. Now, dear listener, please let me get through this. All right, we continue.
Info panels underneath videos from news publishers with government funding. Videos from RT and other Russian state media channels began showing this label as early as 2018, giving context that the channel is funded in whole or in part by the Russian government.
I don't necessarily have a problem with that. I think that is a perfect balance. Let us know this group is being funded by the Russian government. Okay, I'm fine. And then with Rachel Maddow and CNN say this group is funded by the DNC. And then when you see Fox News, this group is being funded by the RNC. Good. Do that with everybody. I'm serious. Do it with everybody. Okay, this is a super chat funded YouTube channel. I mean, hell, when you get a sponsor, there's literally, when you go into editing your profile on YouTube Studio, I know I'm talking shop now. There's literally a place where you click sponsored content on your little thing. You'll see it at the top left when somebody's doing a sponsorship or whatever at the beginning of their video. So we have to do it. I think that's a great idea. This is a great way, YouTube. So why not leave the channel up there? I don't care if it's a propaganda station. Let me know that it's funded by either the Russian government, the Democrats, the Republicans. Great. Let me know where it's coming from so then I can say, okay, I'm going to take this with a grain of salt now. Great. Why completely take it off the airwaves? Let me determine it, please. Who are you to do that with me? I'm starting to have a problem, guys. I really, really am. Exactly, all over the globe. I really am. We continue.
Oh, looks like Russia's going to have to form a super PAC. Actually, why not put everybody's funding under everything they post at all times? Right? So like when CBS News gets to or CNN reports on Ukraine, why not put, hey, they get most of their funding from Raytheon and Boeing and fossil fuel companies.
Right.
What? You don't put that underneath there though. No.
Right.
No. Okay.
Also, there you go. Super chat funding brought to you by Applejack. Gang, gang. Gang, gang, says potty train. Exactly. Raytheon, all these weapons industries and shit. they're being funded, that CNN and all these guys are being funded by, so that when they go to jihad, it actually benefits their benefactors. Maybe if you saw that, maybe if you when you were watching Fox News, during the whole 2002, 2003 era, and you saw Dick Cheney, Halliburton stock behavior, right? Maybe that would color your support for the Iraq war. YouTube, that is brilliant. Just do that across the board, and none of us will be in the situation where anybody has to be censored. Nope. We're only going to do that for RT and Sputnik. But the Ukrainian propaganda outlets and the American propaganda outlets and the NATO propaganda outlets and the UN propaganda outlets, we're just going to continue as if they're just stating the cold hard facts because they're good-hearted people. Holy shit.
Our teams continue to closely monitor the situation, and we will continue to share updates as they become available. Okay. How closely are they going to monitor them? Because I'd like to be monitored 24/7 so I feel more safe. That's what I would do.
It's literally called British broadcasting. Correct. You think do you think that the BBC, do you think that they might have a bit of a bias? Ya Rasulullah.
Me too, yeah.
Here's some more. This is from today, I think. Yeah, March 11th. Our community guidelines prohibit content denying, minimizing, or trivializing well-documented violent events. So that means you can't make so that means if they want to censor you, they can. That's what that means, Kurt.
Okay. So when I was asking what are the definitive objective criteria by which you're going to use to measure what is Al-Furqan, what's the line of demarcation that you're going to use to measure? It is denying, minimizing, or trivializing well-documented violent events. What does minimizing or trivializing mean? Do you see how squishy that term is? When they were... I was in an organization, I was getting trained in an organization, and one of the things they talked about was how to use language like this. How to use language like this to speak to the media in such a way as to it doesn't matter. But language like trivializing and minimizing, you can put in... You can dump a whole bunch of freight into those two words, dear listener. What does minimizing and trivializing mean? Like I said, I'm not picking on anybody. But somebody said to me, now I've said Vlad Putin shouldn't kill anyone. I've actually had, you see this little scrolling ticker up here, dear listener? That little scrolling ticker up there? I have actually had for like 5 or 6 or 7 videos. Vladimir Putin shouldn't kill anyone. Killing is bad. You should also not threaten your neighbor. I literally had one of my good friends, my own flesh and blood, said to me a couple days ago that I was a Putin cheerleader. I said, what the fuck? I said, hey, Story, look at this shit. She said, what? So I'm sure that would fall into trivializing the suffering of the Ukrainian people, since I'm a Putin cheerleader. Somebody else told me that I was minimizing the suffering of Ukrainians by highlighting the suffering of Russians. Dear listener, the reason I don't talk about but by the way, I have talked about the suffering of Ukrainian people when I had a fucking scrolling ticker that said Putin shouldn't kill people. What people was I talking about? But my point is, A person could YouTube could easily say, "Oh, that guy, he's minimizing the suffering of Ukrainian people by cheerleading for Putin." The reason I'm not talking about the Ukrainian people is because all of you are. It's not news anymore. It's all over the place. It's ubiquitous. What nobody's talking about, you know what people are talking about is you've all changed your Facebook avatars to the Ukrainian flag, and you've all put a meme about stop complaining about gas prices. You could be underground in Ukraine, and not a single one of you, because I stalk your Facebook pages, not a single one of you has posted anything about if you think it's bad here at Walmart. What do you think is happening to the Russian people with these ridiculous, with the SWIFT stuff and all the other shit that's happening to those people that's completely massacring their economy? Is YouTube gonna shut you down for minimizing or trivializing the isn't that not a form of economic violence? People have called sanctions acts of war. These are some of the most draconian sanctions we've ever levied against a group of people in my life. I don't hear you guys talking about that. So the reason that I emphasize Russian suffering is because nobody practically is talking about the suffering of Russian people, because the propagandists in Armenia have done a great job. Anytime you think about Ukraine, you think Captain America for Zelensky, ridiculous. And then you have all these pictures, these emotional pictures of Ukrainian citizens underground fearing for their lives. Or the horrible situation in which the mom ended up dying because the hospital was bombed. But anytime you think about Russia, the only thing you think about is Putin. Brilliant. So what I'm trying to do is say, yeah, but there's more than Putin. There's Russian people who are truly suffering. And that could easily be construed, not by any of our friends in Middle America, not by you beautiful people, not by y'all. It could easily be construed as minimizing or trivializing well-documented violent events, and they could then shut down our channel. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Means because if I made a joke about anything, that could be like trivializing it.
I hope that fresh press that we just put up is not going to be trivial.
I bet it is.
We might have trivialized some things.
You can't trivialize it. What does that mean? Well, they are now removing content about Russia's invasion in Ukraine that violates that policy.
Unbelievable.
This makes me yearn for the honesty and transparency of a Jen Psaki. In line with that, we are also now...
Right, because Jen Psaki is also completely objective. I'm not even mad at Jen Psaki, okay? That is her job. And if you look at what Jen Psaki has to say and go, yeah, she's an objective communicator of the events, then you deserve whatever happens to you. None of us think that way. I don't think that there's a soul in this chat that looks at Jen Psaki and goes, "Yep, we know." But that's the point. We have brains. We can think, dear listener. We can think.
Blocking access to YouTube channels associated with Russian state-funded media globally, expanding from across Europe. This change is effective immediately, and we expect our systems to take time to ramp up. Wow, yeah, a lot of stuff is really ramping up right now, I'll tell you that. Since our last update, our teams have now, they brag that about how much censoring they do.
Shit!
You'd think they would be embarrassed if they try to...
Holy shit! We have removed more than 1,000 channels and over 15,000... I got to start watching these videos before I actually go and comment on them because this is not good. 1,000 channels and 15,000 videos since our last update, which was 11 March 2022. So look at this, guys. 15,000 videos. Misinformation, graphic content, and more. That was the Oliver Stone documentary that all of us watched on Friday. Well, the ones that got the notification, because YouTube didn't want to notify you guys. They took down an Oliver Stone video that's been up since 2016 because of violent content. No, they took down the Oliver Stone video because it gave balance to this situation, and it showed us that Vladimir Putin is not the only evil son of a bitch in that region, that there are lots of evil sons and daughters of bitches in that region. That's why they took it down, dear listener. But let us make that decision is all I'm saying, YouTube. Let us make that decision. That's not for you to do.
Hide it. No, they're bragging. They go, we've removed over 1,000 channels and over 15,000 videos around our policies of misinformation. Well,
thank God it's Kakashi. I'm sorry if I butchered your name, sis, but bless God. Are we upset about this because we actually think these videos are worth watching, or is it about the general concept of free speech? I'm upset about it, Q, because it's not so much the concept of free speech as it is the concept of thought control and the paternalism of these people, because they are dictating what all of us think about this conflict by restricting the flow of information and contrary narratives about the current meta-narrative. That's my problem. This is a form of thought control. Dear listener, don't you understand? When you see Vladimir Putin, I've heard he's jailed 15,000 protesters. I'm going to say that he's jailed 28,000 protesters. So I'm going to overestimate, because he's the Antichrist. He's the worst person to ever walk terra firma. Okay. The reason he's doing that is because he wants to maintain a certain narrative about what is happening, and anybody that provides a counter narrative that says, hey, there are different ways we could have handled this threat of NATO, he doesn't want his public hearing that. So he clumsily throws them in prison. Dear listener, you don't have to do that if you have other ways of controlling people's minds. So if I can only feed you one narrative and you can only get the information from a certain kind of channel, I don't need to throw you in prison. I don't need to brutalize you for saying something I don't like. This is where I'm starting to say, I don't know about this private platform thingamajiggy here, because now I'm starting to suspect that you motherfuckers are all in line together, and now I'm starting to have a problem. And now I don't trust you. And you know, Facebook has already began this whole fact-checking, we're going to deplatform you thing. During the 2020 elections, literally, my mods had to approve every single post. Every single post my mods had to approve. Facebook.com/America Middle. They literally had to approve every single post. That's how Facebook punished us during the elections, because Middle America is populated by, what's up, Senior Clay? It's populated by right-leaning and left-leaning people. And anytime a right-leaning person said something about one of these candidates, Facebook punished them, because they clearly had an agenda about who they wanted elected. So now I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this whole, well, we're a private company. You know, I'll say this. If I truly believe that YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Alphabet, whatever, if I truly believe that these were private companies, then I would be all for it. But isn't it strange that YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Alphabet, Google, whatever, isn't it strange that Fox, YouTube, CNN, MSNBC, across the board, all of these guys have generally the same narrative about this situation? And they treat everybody who questions the foundational aspects of the current narrative, everybody gets treated as some crazy person. Another one of my good friends, another one of the members of my internet family, dear listener, he said, what did he call me? He said, you're a QAnon. You're falling into the QAnon. Alt-right. But isn't it convenient that they're all believing the same thing and saying the same thing? And it just so happens that what they're saying is rhyming with what the administration is saying, and not just the administration, but Democrats and Republicans? Everybody across the board is seeing the same thing? I don't know, man. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Paj Mahaj says, what's going on now is out of Revelation 13. Revelation 13 is the beast, the Antichrist, the right-handed forehead. You gotta buy and sell and all the rest of it. What's up, Al Nabiyan? Salam alaikum. That's my problem. I think you guys helped me figure this out. I needed your guys' help. If this was truly a private company, I would still say they could demonetize you, they could deplatform you, whatever. But now I'm in a situation where this is the most influential form of media literally in the history of human beings, controlled by a very small group of people who I no longer believe are operating for private means. They're operating in concert with the government, and it's to monitor mentation or control how we interpret literal history as it's playing out in front of us, and then curtail our ability to influence that history, because in the Western world we have a democracy. That is my problem. That's the problem. It's thought control. If you limit contrary narratives, then you're going to believe that story. That's going to affect how you think and feel about these situations, and that in turn is going to affect how you vote, and that in turn is going to affect how world history literally plays out. And dear listener, if we surrender that, we're fucked. Imagine, dear listener, if this happened during World War II, and the people on both sides could have said, whoa, let's rework the Treaty of Versailles. Let's do a couple things here on both sides. We could have avoided World War II maybe. What if somebody had a cell phone and said, yo, this is what they're doing to Jews? And German state media said, we're deplatforming you. Don't you see? You think we're better than those people? You think that could never happen again? Aren't you worried about these massive, gigantic companies controlled by very few people who have the power by divine fiat to tell you how to think? I don't know, man. I don't know, guys. I don't know.
How do you know it's misinformation? If I said always the official policy is always wrong, the official narrative, WMDs,
I've never met this person before, but it's Kashi is absolute. I think you're right. I think it's a lot more nefarious, and I think Putin is a clumsy, sort of evil bad guy from like the old school. He's almost like I don't know if you guys are old enough. You remember, what's this guy? What's the guy? Austin Powers. You remember the evil guy on Austin Powers? Like, that's Putin. Evil as hell, but just very clumsy with an old mind. Our evil overlords are very sophisticated. They don't need to throw you in a jail. They could just deplatform you. And by the way, if they truly felt threatened by you, they can't throw you in jail and fucking take you out of your house, and your family will never see you again. Go Google what a rendition program is. Go Google what the rendition program was. Go Google Chelsea Manning. Go Google Chelsea Manning and see what happened to Chelsea Manning. I got very, very, very good-hearted people telling me, "Oh, Putin, he's a bad guy. Look what he does. He doesn't believe in free speech." Stop it. Your government doesn't believe in free speech either. That's why Edward Snowden was like, "Yo, I'm out." Why didn't he stay? Why didn't Edward Snowden stay where he was? Why was Chelsea Manning tortured? And those are the ones we know. And that happened under the Obama administration. Obama is the most balanced, sane guy out of all of them. If I were to say to you, George Bush, Vladimir Putin, Joe Biden, Obama, who's the most balanced, reasoned, sane person in that group? All of us would probably say, well, yeah, Obama. And it was under his watch that Chelsea Manning got tortured initially. So let's dispense with this idea that, yeah, it was Dr. Evil. Come on now. These people are 15,000 videos. All right.
Wow.
Our systems are also connecting people to trusted news sources. So far, our breaking news and top news shelves, our homepage, have received more than 17 million views in Ukraine.
Holy shit. Let me show you guys something. Let me show you guys something about these trusted news sources. Let me show you something about trusted news sources, because this is one of the reasons. Somebody asked me, are you worried about free speech? What's the problem here? Here's my problem, guys. Check this shit out.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities,
the El Paso, Las Cruces communities,
Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling, irresponsible, one-sided news stories
plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
False news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Yeah.
This is extremely dangerous.
Yeah. 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 So let me get this straight, YouTube. Major companies, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, they can say whatever crazy shit they want. They can fucking lie us into a war. Kill anywhere from 400,000 to 1.5 million beautiful image bearers of God in their own homes, at weddings, whole 9 yards. So that branch of the media can do that shit. And then we have local media that does this shit. Let me show you, beautiful people, the backstory to that fucking nightmarishly horrific. If that video doesn't scare the shit out of you, holy fucking shit. Let me show you guys something. And some of you guys already know this shit with the Sinclair media thing. Okay? Classic Russian propaganda. Classic. But Russia has a state-sponsored media. Let me show you guys something. Now, this shit will blow your mind.
But first, does it matter who owns your local TV station? While polls show Americans are increasingly worried about so-called fake news, they also show that many trust their local news more than other sources.
So that was the local news station doing all this shit, guys. That was just that, okay? And you're right. Those local news stations were owned by a group called Sinclair Media. Watch this.
Decide what their local news is going to be. You know, they have, you know,
and the right. And on KSAS in Wichita, are both capable of hate and violence does not mean he's condoning any of it.
And again, on every single one of the 193 Sinclair stations across the country. Eric Lipton is a reporter for the New York Times who's been covering Sinclair.
They have, what they call must runs, which
The New York Times
include Boris Epstein, who was a surrogate for Trump, who is, on the air talking about conservative issues. While the local news stations largely decide what their local news is going to be, a covering of local government crime and local issues, there are these must-runs that go on their networks across the United States, which have a decidedly conservative flavor.
A must-run. Because your local company, your local news station, which you just thought are just trying to get you to keep you informed and up to date, is actually run by a corporation, and that corporation can decide what you must run. It's called a must run. Now, all these little mini stations that are owned by these giant corporations have YouTube channels.
Partisan tilt has many free speech advocates alarmed because not only does Sinclair own such a large chunk of the marketplace already, but it's hoping to get bigger still. If a proposed $4 billion merger with Tribune Media goes forward, Sinclair would now reach 3 out of 4 American households. Journalism professor Louis Friedland.
It is a real step in a very different direction to begin to say that the most trusted news source of most Americans is going to be allowed to be turned into an opinion organization, opinion machine.
You hear it? Trusted news, safety. Don't you remember that from Jimmy Dore? Trusted news, safety. And YouTube is the arbiter of that.
A very narrowly conservative point of view night after night in local communities.
Television remains the main source of news for many Americans. In 2016, 46% of adults said they got their news from local TV stations. And it's information they trust. 41% of registered voters said they trust local news to tell the truth.
But you think that you got an end around with YouTube. Huh? You got an end around with YouTube because you can get independent journalists who can get you the skinny from another direction, and then you synthesize the information between what you see in mainstream and what you see in YouTube, because you go, look, there's two sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth, right? And so you, silly person, it's like what Jimmy Dore said, you get a second opinion. You go to one doctor, then you go to another doctor, and then you synthesize both of those reports, and then you get, from that, you use the brain God gave you, and you come up with some decision. So you thought, oh, we're going to be able to end around this really simply. All we have to do is go to YouTube. We get some independent journalists. Nope. Bye, Abby Martin. They just took down 600 of her videos. No warning, no nothing. What, Vin, you saying Russia ain't the only propagandist? I thought Western media was unbiased. Only Russians would have this opinion. Of course, Russians can only lie, and Americans can only tell the truth.
While some other less national.
Listen to this shit again. Listen to this. Listen to this shit. This is look at this.
Sinclair disputes having any kind of a political bent. Its executives declined to talk with us on camera for this report.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
This weekend, the online site Deadspin created this compilation of dozens of Sinclair's local newscasters recording an identical promo accusing the national media of spreading fake news.
And an agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
She's got her hand over her mouth like, holy fucking shit! She can't swear, so you could if you said that one. I'd give you a pass. In the wise, relevant words of Brother Malcolm X, democracy is hypocrisy.
This is extreme.
Something that they're saying?
Say again?
Are they just saying a script?
Wallahi, they're reading from a script.
All of them?
All of them. These are.
Wouldn't that just be obvious?
Well, when you put it together, it's obvious, but these are all different stations in different cities. So like Lewiston is hearing it, and then, you know, in Florida, they're hearing the same script, but they don't know. You see what I'm saying? But because of YouTube, because of social media, we were able to see because somebody took the time to collate those videos together. But if this was 20 years ago, we would not have been able to. So now YouTube can actually function the way media was supposed to function, which is to tell on the powerful so that the common man would punish them with their dollar or their vote. That is the point. So now the common woman is armed with the information so she could say, we're going to make you pay. But now YouTube is proposing to disarm the common man and woman by saying, no, 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 no. We are going to determine from trusted sources. These are the trusted sources, dear listener. Did you see the NBC? Look, it says Fox right there. These are the trusted sources, dear listener. There's your trusted source.
Do you think soon that they'll just like take off all small channels and just leave these?
I think our little channel is safe, but I think Jimmy Dore and the rest of them, I think there's some bigger channels that are really critiquing this stuff, and I think those people are in a lot of trouble.
Dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our
superior to CNN and
Now watch. Now this is where you got caught. Because when you first saw this and you saw Trump, you're like, oh man, it's Trump. This Sinclair group is in bed with Trump, so it's bad. Because once again, these people got you focusing on a person instead of the system. There's a system. And the system is not good if it just so happens to overlap with your agenda. Namely, I don't like Trump, so anything bad about Trump is bad. This tribalism shit is killing us.
even more.
Okay, so that was the Sinclair group. Now let me show you guys something, okay? Let me show you guys something about the Sinclair group. At the time, the Sinclair group owned 40% of local American media. Okay? That was 2021. They were, at the time of the recording of that video, they were going to buy this other media company that did the same thing called Tribune, which would have skyrocketed their footprint. But after that video came out, Tribune decided they were not going to sell to them. So you know who bought them? A company called Nexstar. Nexstar bought Tribune. So remember, Sinclair Broadcast Group owned 186 local stations, okay, in 87 American markets that accounted for 40% of local American media. One group. They were then about to buy this other smaller group called Tribune, which would have expanded their footprint even larger. But because of all the negative ramifications of this video, Tribune pulled out and sold themselves to Nexstar, who owns, you guessed it, more than 68%, as of today, more than 68% of all U.S. television household, including 120 local websites, 284 local news and other news and weather mobile apps. So now there's a group even bigger than the Sinclair group called the Nexstar group, which owns almost 70%, which is what they meant by 3 out of every 4. Almost 70% of local media. And anytime they want to write a script, they can. What do you think is happening with Ukraine at the local level? That's why YouTube is important. Okay? That's why YouTube is important. And that is the reason. I had a guy tell me, he's in the chat right now. He said, the truth is determined by the experts in the media. He's like, I know you don't want to hear that, but it's true. That's what he told me. He said, those truckers, those guys, they're all Nazis. I said, okay, show me where it says they're Nazis. His brother wasted my time with 5 articles. Not a single one of them even accused them of such. But he said, they are. Okay. Look, I don't care. My point is, he believes that, fine. I believe what I believe. Let us make the decision. But YouTube now is saying, oh no, the group's owned by Nexstar, Sinclair, Fox, CNN. They're cleared. They can say whatever they want, and so believe what they say. But now we are not supposed to hold the accountability people accountable. This is madness, y'all. This is madness. The YouTube was one of these unforeseen moments in history where people actually had the power to actual self-determination. Because again, if you can control my thought, then you can control my emotions, and you can control my actions. And if you can control my actions, you can control my vote. And if you can control my vote, then you can literally control the world. And if you think that that's okay, because you have been summarily propagandized to believe that Vladimir Putin is the biggest threat on the planet, even though Mr. Putin, his entire country doesn't even have the GDP of Apple, but he's the biggest threat. Dear listener, I've asked a question. It's a multiple choice question. I'll make it simple for you. Which country has dropped more bodies all across the world, dismembered people, ruined more lives by the millions? Russia or the United States? I'll just answer the question for you. Let me show you one last thing before I let you go, dear listener. God almighty. I'm going to show you one last thing before I let you guys go, because this shit is, look, I'm not a fearful person. I am not a fearful person. Now here goes Alden. Alden, I said in the last 20 years. Good try, Shaitan. I said in the last 20 years, brother Al. So you can try to answer the question again. Who's dropped more bodies, brother Al, in the last 20 years? The United States or Russia? I'll give you time to answer. While I'm doing that, here, check this out. Check this out. Here's Tucker Carlson. Okay, Amy wants to answer. Okay, Amy, answer the question. Who's dropped more bodies in the last 20 years? Russia or the United States? Check this out, guys. This shit is unbelievable to me.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Happy in Ukraine. They failed to secure might get into the wrong hands. But it's right. Assign blame to the problem. It might be worth thinking through how to fix the problem.
Criminal acts against innocent.
Contents of these
repeating Russian propaganda.
And anyone who tries is an agent of Putin. Pathogens, these agents exist in your clip. Admits that these pathogens are in Ukraine. They're doing research on botulism and anthrax. So any
USA, of course, correct. You're right. You did not just call me Shaitan. No, I said that the U.S. is Shaitan. I was trying to give you a hint. And yes, it was the United States. And no, nothing to apologize. Nothing to apologize. A friend of mine said, United States are war masters. You guys are the war masters. Okay. Now, listen to this, dear listener. Listen to this.
reasonable person would be concerned by that because there's a war going on. And by the way, why would they pause and think, well,
those facilities
research on anthrax and other...
Okay, now, Mitt Romney accused, Mitt Romney, who dodged the draft 4 times, by the way, and I'm glad he did. He shouldn't have been in Vietnam. Neither should have any American citizen have been in Vietnam. And subhanAllah, if we would have had YouTube, okay, during Vietnam, maybe we could have influenced everybody to put so much fucking public pressure on our government that maybe all those people on the Vietnam War Memorial wouldn't be on the War Memorial. They would be granddads and great-granddads and living their lives. But our media went completely within lockstep with that bullshit war and killed all those beautiful people over there in Vietnam, which, by the way, was about who? Oh, that's right. Russia, Russia, Russia. It's those communists over there it's the communists. And they're playing around with the Viet Cong, so we got to go over there and bail out the... It's literally the same playbook. I don't understand this stuff. We continue. So anyway, Tulsi's like, listen, there's pathogens there. This is horrible. And we should have took care of this situation before this war got hot. And this dude had the audacity to call Tulsi Gabbard, who's been she's like a car... I forgot what she is, but she's been in the military for damn near close to 20 years. She's an admiral or something like that in the Army Reserve still to this day. And the draft dodging dude has the audacity to talk about this woman. You don't even have the... See, I was about to say something unChrist-like, but I stopped. We continue.
Deadly pathogens.
Pentagon official I talked to this morning said there is no movement of chemical weapons into Ukraine.
There's no movement of chemical weapons into Ukraine. Was that the argument? Was that the argument that we are currently moving chemical weapons into Ukraine? Or was the argument that we were fucking around with some real destructive shit that we left behind as we hightailed it out of Ukraine because the Cold War went warm, was about to go hot? That's the problem that people have. But this is one of the things that these propagandists do. They completely shift the goalpost. Okay, I'm going to let Candy Apple say it. This is what these people do. They completely shift the goalpost and straw man your argument. That is not what Tucker and the rest of the folks have been saying.
At least they're not seeing the signs of it. The concern is that the Russians will seize one of these biomedical research facilities that Ukraine has, where they do research on deadly pathogens like botulism and anthrax. Seize one of...
I don't know if you guys remember... Some of this shit is just unbelievable. I don't know if you guys remember this, but literally, you guys remember the anthrax attacks? You remember the anthrax attacks right before the Iraq war, and then the anthrax got traced to Iraq conveniently. So then we had an anthrax scare. People were opening envelopes. Boom! There was this powder. Oh no, anthrax! Oh my God! Terrified. Open their mailboxes. You weren't even born, dear. You weren't even born at the time. Okay. Fear. Widespread fear all over the nation. The entire nation was held by the bajongas. Due to everybody was terrified to open their mailboxes. There you were trying to watch a Seinfeld rerun. Anthrax, guys, anthrax. Who's responsible for this? It was the Iraqis. Don't you remember? That's how they prepped us. And then after that, we saw images of those beautiful people over there in Iraq when Saddam... after we abandoned the Kurdish people, after we abandoned them in Kuwait, and Saddam took the sarin gas and all that and mustard gas and killed those poor people. So they connected the anthrax domestically to the sarin gas, and voila, you had the Iraq war. Don't you remember? Now all of a sudden, this dude is sitting here telling us that anthrax, that's not a weapon. It's just research, man. It's just research. It's not a weapon. I was told by this guy says I just got off the phone. I was told by the government that we're not moving any chemicals into Ukraine.
Research on anthrax and other, quote, deadly pathogens.
Pentagon official I talked to this morning said there is no movement of chemical weapons into Ukraine. At least they're not seeing the signs of it. The concern is that the Russians will seize one of these biomedical research facilities that Ukraine has, where they do research on deadly pathogens like botulism and anthrax, seize one of those facilities, weaponize the pathogen, and then blame it on Ukraine and the U.S. because the U.S. has been providing support for some of the research being done in those facilities.
Okay, so we're a little confused.
That's literally what Tucker and Jimmy and anybody else, I'm not going to say with a brain, okay, but anybody else that would connect the volatility of that area with the amount of carnage that can be done in this situation. Right. At least that's not what we have seen, which means he doesn't have to take the blame for it when it comes out that they do have it. Correct. Yeah, that's right. That's a 12-year-old who is able to read through all that nonsense again. The 12-year-old figured that out. Unbelievable. I mean, no disrespect to you. You just took out the light up there. No disrespect to you, but a 12-year-old was able to figure that out. That's how little respect these people have for you.
About what all the hyperventilating is about. And you just heard CBS say, and you've heard many say, that Russia may...
Bro, I don't understand this, man. Do you believe that the USA is purposely making biological and chemical weapons? Jim. Google Agent Orange. Jim, I don't even know how to answer that question. Like, what do you mean? Jim, do you believe that there's a nation on this planet that has a more sophisticated biochem weapon production and research apparatus than the United States of America? I don't understand that question. I really don't.
Seize these biological agents in Ukraine and use them against the Ukrainians and who knows who else. Now, you would pause and think, well, wait a second, if these are Soviet-era weapons, then presumably the Soviets, now called the Russian government, probably have their own, so why would they want to seize stuff they already have? It doesn't actually make a lot of sense, but whatever. You'll notice that the reporter you just saw at the beginning of the clip admits that these pathogens are in Ukraine.
Correct.
They're doing research on botulism and anthrax. So any reasonable person would be concerned by that because there's a war going on. And by the way, why were they funding this?
So are you saying, yes, you didn't answer? Yes. 1,000 times yes. I'm just shocked that you would even ask me that question. Here's Adam. You've attracted a lot of right-wing viewers with your free speech talking points, and now they're freaking out on your neutrality. Well, the chat's going a little bit faster than I could keep up with. But Adam, I assure you, Adam, that right-wingers are not the only people that are concerned with free speech. When I was growing up, it was the left-wingers who were talking about free speech. It was the left-wingers who were telling us, hey, let Marilyn Manson and Andrew Dice Clay say whatever they want to say. This is America. This is a crazy idea that only right-wing people care about free speech. Left-wing people are generally countercultural, people who are outside on the margins, and they need their speech protected probably more than anybody in the country because they're generally always on the... What are you talking about, Adam? And it's amazing to me that you know to judge all these people. You know all their political affiliations. You've never seen these people in your life. You're hundreds and thousands of miles separated from them, but you know immediately what their political persuasions are based on a comment section. And here it is again. This is where a person, I love you, but Jim, you are so propagandized that it just comes automatically from your mouth. So Putin didn't poison his political opponent? Jim, Who said that? I wasn't even talking about Putin. You asked me a question about whether or not you believe that we are constructing chemical and biological weapons. I said yes 1,000 times yes, because it's a fact. And we've done it since the inception of this, of our history. And then that gets translated into, that means Putin is an angel. No. What it means is America is the biggest bully on the block. We've got all the money, which means we've got the money and the power. So that gives us the ability to do more nefarious shit than anybody else on the planet. That doesn't mean Vladimir Putin is an angel. I don't understand this stuff. We continue. These people are extremely stereotypical, Vin. They're not hard to dissect. You're wrong. You are wrong. You haven't spoken to these people. You don't know these people. I understand that in the world that the media has given you, everything is black and white and very simple. Putin bad, America good. Orange man bad, Rachel Maddow good. Yeah, and you just live in this very, very simplistic world. There's no color, there's no gray, there's no nothing. It's just very, very black and white. So if people say that they care about free speech, now all of a sudden they're hardcore right-wingers and they're all stereotypical and you don't need to dissect them. But if you said that about a black person, or if somebody said that about a black person, you'd say, that's racism. You're not, but Adam, you're not my enemy, and you're not the enemy of these people. What's happening is your mind has been completely and totally subsumed by this propaganda. And this is why speech is important, so that you get teammates around you and friends who can say, holy shit, your thought process is off. You're stereotyping people you've never met in your life or even spoken to. And speech is important so that we can dialogue and wrestle with each other and that we can grow. Your exhibit A through Z as to why, alpha through omega, as to why we need free speech. But we're here for you. We continue.
Ukraine in the first place, but that's really a secondary question. Maybe we can get to the bottom of that when the war's over. But Tulsi Gabbard addressed, and only addressed, the danger that innocent people could die because these weapons, apparently these pathogens, these agents exist in Ukraine. She didn't blame it on Russia. She didn't blame anybody. She just said,
correct. All she said was people could fucking die. This is horrible. That's all she said. Now, all Tulsi said was that. That's all she said. This woman who's put her life on the line for this country, for the wars that the media lied her into, by the way, and a guy like Romney and these other folks over there sitting comfortably in their I was just watching, I don't know if I'm going to show it, guys. There's this woman who's embedded, this French lady who's embedded in Donbass, in the Donbass region over there in Ukraine. And she was doing an interview with, her counterparts in France. And she started the interview. She was very put together and stuff. And then she pulled out her phone and started showing all the dead people she interviewed and stuff that ended up dead. And she started recounting all the bombing and shelling that's happening to civilians over there, while her counterparts were comfortably sitting down there, trying to, Putin did this. And she's like, no, he's in the heart of Ukraine. She goes, I did a documentary on this in 2016. She's like, I'm still here. It was heartbreaking interview. But that woman, I had a hella respect for her. Hella respect for her. Inshallah, she makes it back. I don't know if I'm gonna watch the documentary. What I'm trying to do, guys, is I'm trying to figure out how to watch that Winter on Fire, which honestly I'm very skeptical about, to be honest with you, because I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. We had Ukraine on fire. Now all of a sudden we got Winter on Fire. Okay, but the Winter on Fire is supposed to be a counter narrative to Ukraine on Fire. So It's on Netflix, so I don't really know how I'm going to be able to live stream that with you guys. And that one, I'm assuming we're going to get a copyright strike for, which I don't think there's any nefarious reason for it. I mean, it's a Netflix type of thing. I don't know. We'll figure that out at some other point. Reports say Donetsk was hit with high caliber missile, basically targeting civilians. Those are civilians. Yeah, although there's the Ukrainians are saying that it was shot down by the Russians. I don't know about that specific attack, but I do know that the over close to 4,000 civvies have been killed in the Donbass regions by Ukraine. But we continue.
This is the thing. Unsecured bioweapons in a war zone are a bad idea. That's not reasonable now? That's treason? Reason isn't part of the way people are thinking now.
It really isn't.
Everybody in leadership has completely lost the ability to think beyond the next tweet. Who is thinking about tomorrow or next month or 20 years from now? Not one person. And anyone who tries is an agent of Putin.
Now to a story of Russian.
Jar Jar says, "You sound like you've been propagandized by Tucker and Jimmy. They've been really only two you've ever referenced as sources in your recent videos. You've created your own echo chamber." Well, Jar Jar, come on. Here, Jar Jar, here's what I'll do. I've got a link here. And because I keep inviting people to do this and people don't do this. I don't know why. Because I don't believe in echo chambers. So what I want to do, Jar Jar, is I'm going to get you on here. And you can come on and then you can provide a counter narrative, because unlike YouTube, I don't believe in censoring people. By the way, you're completely wrong in saying that Tucker and Jimmy are the only people that I reference. As a matter of fact, we all sat down and watched a documentary that went damn near close to 4 hours because we were going back and forth on the documentary. So it's untrue that I only use Jimmy and Tucker. But you know, you've got other things to do with your life. So I don't think you watch every video that I do. So I'm not saying that, you know, whatever. But there you go. There's the link right there. And then you can come on and we can talk and we can have a real discussion. And if I'm wrong on someplace, which is very, very possible, call in and then you can explain to me, Jar Jar, where I'm wrong. You can explain to me that we shouldn't be worried about that we're fiddling around playing with anthrax over there in a zone that was months away from a hot war with a madman and all the rest of it. You can explain all this stuff to me. Okay? So I don't have a problem at all with having these discussions and airing out contrary opinions and having debates. That's why we have free speech. We continue.
Disinformation that has been quickly embraced and amplified by some in America's right-wing media. When State Department Undersecretary Victoria Nuland confirmed this week that there was bio-research going on in Ukraine, critics say that Tucker Carlson of Fox News took those remarks out of context.
Now you see the Chinese government kind of openly repeating Russian propaganda, for example, about the use of supposed American biolabs in Ukraine.
This Russian misinformation about biolabs in Ukraine, people on the Trump right who are actually parroting Russian propaganda every day and every night.
The supposed biolab.
People on the right. So Tulsi's a right-winger. Jimmy Dore is a right-winger. I've had people tell Jimmy Dore is a right-winger. He's pushing for Medicare for all and forced to vote. He's a hard right-winger, man. That Jimmy Dore. He's a hard right-winger. Everybody, these are all just right-wing talking points. I think Jenk came out and said that Tucker came out with the lab leak story because he was signaling to Putin that he has his support when he runs for president. I kid you not. I kid you not. This is where we are.
Well, the U.S. government says they have biolabs and told us under oath that they're worried about the contents of these biolabs.
Riggs says, who do we trust when alternative media is prone to distortion and bias as well? My brother, all of us are prone to distortion and bias. None of us are computers with just this clean tabula rasa of the mind. Here's my argument, though. If all of us get together in a community, which social media affords us, and we can sift through the basic major chunks of the narrative, I believe that we, the people, can figure this shit out together, whether you're left wing or right wing. Jimmy Dore is a leftist, and this guy is a right winger, but they're both saying similar things, not because there's a secret cabal behind the scenes, but because they're both looking at this shit and saying, this shit doesn't make sense. And I am, for example, me, when I first heard about the invasion, my wife was crying. I was like, that fucking Putin, all this shit. And when people first told me there was an invasion coming to Ukraine from the Russians, I was like, man, those Russians, man. And then I looked into it. And then I saw for 30 years what people were saying about NATO. Not to mention all the shit that's happening to those poor people in Donbass. Not to mention all the Nazi bullshit. Just the NATO piece. And I said, whoa, wait a second here. And my mind shifted from Vladimir Putin is crazy to why isn't the United States and the rest of NATO saying unilaterally and unconditionally, we will never have Ukraine in NATO, and we will stop sending all these high-powered weapons to the border of Russia. Why aren't we doing that? That changes things. So all of us have biases. I'm not advocating for pure media. What I'm advocating for is some form of accountability. And what I'm saying is, it is terrifying that a small cabal of people can decide what goes into mine and your consciousness so that we have less and less opportunity to sift through these bits of information ourselves so that we can then put political pressure on our overlords so as to make these things a priority to secure the future of our children and Ukrainian children and Russian children. That's what I'm saying. And children of the world. That's my point. I don't believe that Jimmy Dore says it. I'm in my garage, blah, 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 blah. I have disagreements with Jimmy Dore on a lot of things at the minute detail. But as far as the big picture here, Jimmy's right, Tucker's right, I believe. Now, if I am wrong and Jimmy's wrong and Tucker's wrong, that's why I give people the link and say, let's jump on and have a discussion. What if all Americans were able to do this? What if we say, let's jump on and have a discussion. You got 17,000 people were watching Jimmy one time. You got all these channels all across the nation, and people say, okay, we want to invade Iraq because of weapons of mass destruction. What if we had alternative news sites and citizen journalism, and all of us got together and we had a debate? I'm pretty certain that we would have been able to figure out that there was no justification to invade that country, and we could have saved some lives. I am certain, guys, that if it wasn't for Aaron Mate's work and a bunch of other people, Max Blumenthal, etc., that we would have had it would have got bloodier in Syria with that whole white helmet nonsense. I am certain if we didn't have social media and alternative media, that it would have got that way. So my point is, the more information we have, the more we can cross-check each other, the more it influences the zeitgeist, and the more it influences the vote, so that we can influence these people. Because as I've been saying, there is a tacit exchange of power for security. We're telling these people, fine, you can be our overlords and be the governor and be rich and whatever, and you secure for us a kind of future that we want. That's the exchange that we make with the government. But if we don't have enough information as to what defines security, now we got a problem. Because the way that the government defined security during the invasion of Iraq was, these guys have WMDs, don't think too much about it, just trust us and support this and vote for this. And the number one arm that was used to convince us all of that was the media. But all of us didn't believe it. You had a whole bunch of other people, but they didn't have a platform by which to reach millions of people. That's what I'm saying.
Which they failed to secure might get into the wrong hands. But it's right-wing Putinite propaganda. We're taking Nuland's remarks out of context. Okay, what's the right context? We asked. No one told us. Robert Pope's remarks, were they taken out of context too? This is insane. There's a problem. Before we even assign blame to the problem, it might be worth thinking through how to fix the problem.
Yeah, I am changing. I am changing. Art, you were one of the big guys that were talking to me about this for about a year and a half. DJ was talking to me about it. Yes, I am changing. And a lot of it has to do with when I see this shit, I go, this is what Art was talking about. Or, this is what DJ was talking about. I was dead set on one position, and then as more facts came out, and as I saw more things happen, I started to say, I don't know, something's off here. And that's why speech is so important.
But no. Anyone who mentions it should shut up. And not just shut up, be shut up by force if necessary, with jail time. Now, we're going to do something we almost never do. We're going to play you a clip from The View, which is now calling for a Department of Justice investigation into this show and Tulsi Gabbard. Watch.
What Tucker Carlson parrots every night on Fox News, what Tulsi Gabbard is spreading, is actually helping Putin get away with criminal acts against innocent Ukrainian civilians.
And I think DOJ, in the same way that it is setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs, should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin. That's being, if you are a foreign asset.
Now, this woman keeps looking down. Now this is, if you want to see Vin at his peak tinfoilism, okay? Peak tinfoil Vin. Why this woman keeps looking down as if she's reading from a script. Listen closely to what this woman is saying, because it will blow your mind. Again. This is me at peak tinfoil. Okay? Peak tinfoil hat. Look at what she's saying. Now remember, what they're talking about is Tucker and Tulsi saying you've got these potentially fatal pathogens. You knew that the war was going from warm to hot. There's a real problem here. This shit can be weaponized. Watch this. This is unbelievable to me.
From The View, which is now calling for a Department of Justice investigation into this show and Tulsi Gabbard. Watch.
What Tucker Carlson parrots every night on Fox News, what Tulsi Gabbard is spreading, is actually helping Putin get away with criminal acts against innocent Ukrainian civilians.
And I think DOJ, in the same way that it is setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs, should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin. That's being, if you are a foreign asset to a dictator, it should be investigated. In fact, I remember when Tulsi Gabbard, and I even hate that we're discussing it, because I think to myself, who is this woman? How do you not call out something?
She had the paper there. Listen. Does it look like she was reading from something to you?
It looked like she was lying. But then once you said that, I'm like, oh. And like you can even tell from like her like hesitating.
Yeah.
Once she looks down, she hesitates.
Yeah.
For like a couple seconds, and then she starts again.
See? The 12-year-old, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know, guys. Look, and here's Adam Keene. It's now proven Vin is a conspiracy theorist because the agency has never used actors or actresses or news folks to further their propaganda. That's never happened, Adam. Never. Adam, here. I will let you on, Adam, and you can tell me if that's ever that's never been done. By the way, Paj Mahaj is very, very proud of you. He said, "It's proud of you." There you go, fist bump. Pound it. All right, we'll watch the script reading lady again. I'm convinced she was reading from a script, y'all.
Putin get away with criminal acts against innocent Ukrainian civilians.
And I think DOJ, in the same way that it is setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs, should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin. That's being, if you are a foreign asset to a dictator, it should be investigated. In fact, I remember when Tulsi Gabbard, and I even hate that we're discussing it because I think to myself, who is this woman? How do you not call out something that is repeating false Russian propaganda and that has been brought down?
The DOJ, that's the Department of Justice.
Did you notice that the screen went off of her when she was talking?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Guys. Okay, now aside from my crazy tinfoil hat conspiracy theory, listen to what the essence of what the Department of Justice should be brought in against Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard? Huh? But I thought Putin was the crazy one for locking up dissenting speech. Wasn't Putin? Aren't you guys all telling me that Putin? Why is she on national television on one of the most viewed, pun intended, shows in our country, calling for the Department of Justice to stand up a special whatever to go after people like Tucker and Tulsi? Huh?
Mentions it should shut up. And not just shut up, be shut up by force if necessary, with jail time. Now, we're going to do something we almost never do. We're going to play you a clip from The View, which is now calling for a Department of Justice investigation into this show and Tulsi Gabbard. Watch.
What Tucker Carlson parrots every night on Fox News, what Tulsi Gabbard is spreading, is actually helping Putin get away with criminal acts against innocent Ukrainian civilians.
And I think DOJ, in the same way that it is setting up a task force to investigate oligarchs, should look into people who are Russian propagandists and shilling for Putin. That's being, if you are a foreign asset to a dictator, it should be investigated. In fact, I remember when Tulsi Gabbard, and I even hate that we're discussing it because I think to myself, who is this woman? How do you not call out something that is repeating false Russian propaganda and that has been brought down?
They used to arrest people for doing stuff like this.
Holy shit! Yes! Whoopi! Whoopi's back from her suspension, I see. Guys! Yes! We used to arrest people for this. It was called McCarthyism, and it used to be universally looked upon as a dark period of American history where a lot of innocent lives were ruined. Holy shit! On national TV, we used to arrest people like this. What? So that segment, I'm assuming, is on YouTube. Is YouTube going to take that down for promoting McCarthyism? Does that violate YouTube's program guidelines? Is that violational content? Promoting McCarthyism? We used to arrest. I cannot believe how naked these people are with their fascist McCarthyist bullshit. It's unbelievable to me. It is unbelievable to me. They used to arrest people like this.
Really? They used to arrest people for saying stuff like this. When did they arrest people for saying stuff like this? And who is they exactly? Well, the former Karen Elaine Johnson didn't tell us. She kept it vague because that way it's a lot more threatening and maybe you will shut up. And again, we hesitate to show clips from that show. It's an IQ killer. We're making an exception tonight because The View is not alone. A lot of people sound like this. And it's one of these processes where it sounds insane for sure. I can't believe they said that.
I'm blown away. I got to tell you, dear listener, I am blown away. This woman just promoted McCarthyism. The other woman is asking for the DOJ to shut people down. So I don't want to hear anything about how crazy Putin is. None of us live in Russia if you live in America. If you live in America, none of us live in Russia. You live in America, and you got people comfortable enough on mainstream media, on one of the most popular shows on the planet Earth, with the biggest reach possible, to influence the zeitgeist into supporting and resurrecting McCarthyism. And simultaneous to that, YouTube is telling us we're going to shut down contrary voices. So the only voices in this utopia or dystopia, depending on what side of the meta narrative you're on, the only voices that will be heard will be this bullshit. And you don't see that as mind control? This is not mind control to you? This is what I'm telling you. These people are a lot more sophisticated than Putin, who will send his stormtroopers to beat the hell out of you and shove you in a van and lock you up. They don't need to do that. They need to say this. They got this unassuming lady in her little pink little whatever blouse, whatever. And they write the script for her, and she feeds you that bullshit. Whoopi got suspended for saying the Holocaust wasn't about race. This woman can get up there, and they made sure to put it in the mouth of a person of color. So if you criticize her, you're a racist. And then they'll deplatform you for racism. You see how that works? Holy shit.
And then over time, what sounded crazy the first time you heard it sounds a little more normal. And then 3 weeks into the war, It sounds like probably pretty necessary.
Correct.
Keith Olberman.
This is unthinkable. It's unthinkable. I don't know why everybody... How was this not broadcast all over the fucking American show, popular American shows advocate for resurrecting a new McCarthyism? This should have been headline news.
Is always at the cutting edge of things like this. He was watching The View today, doesn't have a lot else to do, and he responded to that segment by writing this on Twitter. They, us, are Russian assets, and there is a war. There's a case for detaining them militarily. Trials are a sign of good faith and patience on the part of democracy.
There it is!
So we're at war with Russia. We must send you to the gulag because freedom.
Oh my God. I'm done. Show's over. I really am done, guys. I really am. I'm out of here. There's a case for solving this militarily. We're at war. There's a case for dealing with this militarily. Tucker Carlson and Tulsi Gabbard should be dealt with militarily. So if you are trying to stymie a nuclear war, which is how I interpret Tucker and Jimmy and Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate and Glenn Greenwald, all these people are now crazy. 4 or 5 years ago, all these people were massively respected individuals. Aaron Mate just won an award because of how he took care of the Russiagate nonsense. But now we're going to say all those people are crazy now. All those people you used to respect. Glenn Greenwald literally put his life on the line for upholding integrity in media. All these people are crazy. And we should listen to the lady that's badly reading the pink script. This lady didn't even have the decency to memorize the script. She didn't even have the decency to memorize the script that the CIA wrote for her. I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna tell y'all that story. Do I believe that YouTube should deplatform the View because of what they just said, or do I believe Twitter should deplatform Keith Olberman? No, I don't. Here are some other really good journalists. Apparently, Jeff Berwick, Jim Richards, Melvin Stampard, Abby Martin, Aaron Mate, Glenn Greenwald, right wing. Yeah. I don't believe that any of those people should be deplatformed. You know why? I would love it if I could find that clip from The View on their YouTube page, because I guarantee you that comment section would be on fire with people saying, this is some McCarthyist bullshit. What are you talking about? And you know what would happen? Some little millennial kid or zillennial kid or my old 12-year-old would be looking in the comment section going, McCarthyism? And then they would Google McCarthyism. And then Wikipedia would pop up. And they'd read it for about 5 minutes. And they'd go back and hit rewind. And then the kid would say, holy shit! They're right! This is McCarthyism. Whoa. This lady of color in the pink just crossed the line. No. That is why they shouldn't deplatform her. That's why. And when Keith Olberman says, Clay is right, comments would be disabled, I agree with you. When Keith Olberman says that nonsense about we need to handle this militarily, people would say, holy shit! What? Whoa. You talking about putting Tulsi Gabbard in the brig? For what? I have more faith in people than that. Let us make those decisions, big tech people. There's like 9 of you. It's kind of there's like 250 million people in this country. There's like 9 of you. You guys can't paternalistically decide what we're responsible enough to exegete and what we're not. You don't get to make that decision. And I don't trust you. I don't trust you to make that decision. Because YouTube, Facebook, Google, Alphabet, I don't believe that you're a neutral observer in this situation, and I don't believe that you have the best interest of common people at heart. So I believe there needs to be some sort of regulation of these companies once they hit a certain level. And I don't know what the number is, but there needs to be some sort of regulation of these companies. And I don't think we need to draft a virtual Bill of Rights. I just think that we need to harmonize concepts of free speech and freedom of assembly, because if you think about it, many YouTube channels in the comment sections are a form of assembly. Is that not true? Haven't all of us been hanging out? This is a form of freedom of assembly. Isn't that true? If you completely deplatform a channel, we no longer are able to assemble with one another, and virtual assembly still counts, especially when you talk about YouTube in a post-pandemic context. There's a lot of us that this was a way for us to gather together. So no, it's not that I believe the government should control media. What I believe is that the government should limit 9 people's authority to restrict media. That's what I'm saying. So when I say regulations, what I'm saying is we need to have the Second Amendment and the freedom of assembly. Those rights need to be interpreted in a virtual fashion to protect us from 9 people who are in bed with the government. Because my problem is that my fear is that government is already controlling social media and media, as we've just witnessed. So when I say regulation, I want to be very, very clear. I believe there needs to be regulation that translates the freedom of speech and the right to assembly into a virtual context, so that these social media giants do not have the ability to control my mind. That's what I believe. And then I believe that it should be objective standards across the board, because that's what the Constitution was designed for. Now, maybe we don't have maybe you update the Constitution with an amendment, whatever it is, I do not care. But now we're in a situation where I don't trust these people. I don't trust Facebook. I don't trust Alphabet. They should not be given a means of promoting political positions and being in bed with politicians and political parties and entire governments without any sort of accountability. It's way too dangerous. VAP, I think you're wrong. VAP here. No. VAP, you don't understand. VAP, the argument is they're already controlling the media. When YouTube deplatforms 15,000 dissenting opinions, and they don't tell us about these channels, they don't name these channels, they just say, yep, they're out. And then they say, we're going to trusted media, which is owned by massive corporations who we've seen literally write scripts for hundreds and hundreds of newscasters all across the nation. They're already controlling the media. And the only way that I can be assured that it's not government-controlled media is to apply the Constitution to these companies. That's what I'm saying. Now, if you believe, my brother, that would result in government control, here's a link, and you can come on the chat and you can explain to me how that would be. Because I don't understand how applying the Constitution to the virtual context would in any way, shape, or form result in government control. So there's a link. Come on and let's have the discussion, because I would genuinely like to know, because I don't believe that what you're saying is true. But I can be convinced. I can be convinced. Don't you remember when Tulsi spanked Kamala in the debate and they took Tulsi out of the algorithm? Correct. That is correct. And then CNN they massaged the rules to silence her voice because they had made a clear decision that Kamala was going to be next. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Thank you, Jason. I do. Then I agree with you. Big tech has always been in bed with politicians to fund their campaigns and get their agenda to put into play. I agree. In order to apply the Constitution, you need to get rid of everything after the 13th Amendment. I'm not sure. You could be right. I'm not sure. Maybe not. Smarter. Send me something. VinAndSorri@gmail.com. I'd like to know. We can't apply the Constitution as it no longer applies. Read the book Fruit from a Poisonous Tree. Okay, and this is why we have discussion. So, Stephen, tell me what you would like as an alternative. Because I think you see the problem as well, but you seem pretty thoughtful. What would you have as an alternative? Tulsi took out Kamala, and then CNN punished her and all the rest of us because of it. Correct. I have a genuine question. How could we operate our... Hey, this is one of my favorite human beings on the planet. Hey, BC, talk to me.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, what you got?
Excuse me, clear my voice. We have a one-party system.
Apparently.
And they're all about war. And they've all been all about war for sort of the 1920s, 1930s.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, we're screwed. We're voting for the same damn people. We're a corporate oligarchy. And, yeah, I think we're at the falling of the American civilization.
Bro, it's very possible. Let me ask you a question, though, before I let you go.
Yeah, I know.
What do you think? What would you do if you had a magic wand and you could do something about big tech? What would you do about big tech?
Big tech? Well, I don't actually use any Facebook things. I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter. I don't mess with any of that stuff. And I don't think it's really helpful for society or people in general. It just makes you feel bad about yourself, or other people make you feel better about yourself. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I'm more worried about World War III starting, because I really think that's what they're pushing. I really don't give a damn about Facebook.
Yeah.
I think they really want this to happen, and I think they have wanted this to happen for a long ass time. Because they're trying to make Russia lesser than, so therefore Russia can't join with China.
Yeah.
And then therefore we're going to go to war with China eventually. Because once this is done, China's going to take over Taiwan, and then there've already been talks about them going to war against India and Korea and all this stuff, and they're going to try and take over all of Asia.
Yeah.
And I really think that World War III is coming. So that's what really concerns me. I don't think Facebook, I mean, they're a player in it, but
I don't think they're the big fish either. I appreciate that, BC. Thank you for jumping on, my man. BC with the heat. Yeah, some of it is I don't know. Like Stephen Lovett said, he said, "Listen, man, applying the Constitution may not necessarily solve that problem." So I'm not gonna say you're an idiot. I don't know. He could be right. He could be right. Unbelievable. Okay. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it. Thank you for everybody for participating. Like I said, I'm an optimistic guy about the world, so I believe we're going to figure it out. But we are going to figure it out. Not 9 people. Not 9 people in an ivory tower somewhere deciding what I want to put into my consciousness and what we as a community can figure out together. I think the average American is actually pretty intelligent, and I think the average global citizen is actually pretty intelligent, and I think the average global citizen doesn't want war. I think we want to love our kids. I think we want to love our wives. I think we want to hang out with our friends. I think we want to watch football or soccer, whatever it is you people play over there in Europe. I think most of us would do anything and everything possible to avoid killing one another. Because we're on the ground with each other. These people are up there somewhere. They can't see us. So what I think is that the more and more we have platforms like this that can bring us together and assemble us together, and where we can debate with one another and disagree with one another, Most of us are not going to get into those arguments, but we're going to sit back and watch. Okay? We're going to watch. We're going to go, you know, that girl's got a point. You know what? That guy's got a point. And I think most of the time, if you bring all these debates at the citizen level, whether it's municipal, state, federal, or global, that the conclusion is always, always, always going to be, we don't want to fucking go to war with each other. I don't want to kill you. You don't want to kill me. You don't want to kill my daughter. You don't want to do that. So the more opportunities we have for all of us to get together, the more we'll be safer. And Al, people are always going to take advantage. That's fine. But the collective has a better opportunity at getting to the truth than 9 people. Okay? That's my point. These people who are making decisions for literally billions of people are 0.00000000000000001% of the fucking population. No. Okay. And they know that, by the way, which is why they're so big on we need to stop this stuff, because now you're going to have these common peasants, these plebeians holding us accountable when we say McCarthyist bullshit. And we can't have that. We can't have that. We can't have we can't have the unwashed masses holding us accountable for saying, after I read my McCarthyist script that the agency wrote for me. All right. It's the best I got today. I went way too long. Thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate all you guys. In the meantime, love your neighbor, take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.